Call our meeting to order and welcome everyone. Welcome to our Board of Education business meeting. We with no public comments, we will move right to the approval of the agenda. Need a motion to approve the agenda. Raymond, second. Judy, any proposed changes or anything to this? No, all in favor? 7-0. So first thing, starting out with a wonderful celebration of board commendations, the class of 2018 August graduates. We'll invite our high school principal, Bob Clark, up with superintendent to make the awards.
Good evening. Before I get started here, I could ask Sabrina to come up here so I can embarrass you just a little bit. And I want to take the opportunity to thank the members of the Board of Education, our district leadership, under the guidance of our superintendent, Mr. Provenzano, for all your support in meeting the needs of our students. Also wanted to thank our building administrative team, as well as our guidance counselors, teachers, social workers, and support staff that were committed to helping our honored guests complete their journey. As I remarked this past June, this is an event that students have worked towards for many years. I'm pleased to announce this evening that 3 more members of the class of 2018 have satisfied all the requirements for graduation from Fairport High School, and each has faced significant challenges and responded to adversity with perseverance to accomplish their goals. Unfortunately, 2 of our graduates aren't with us tonight, but Sabrina's here, and we're very proud to share this event with her tonight. And so at this time, I'd ask Mr. Provenzano and Mr. Forsgren to join me, and we're going to present the diploma. Sabrina? Again, we appreciate the opportunity to share that moment with you, and I'm so proud of all of our graduates, and our other 2 graduates will be delivering their diplomas personally. So thank you very much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Principal Clark, and thank Mr. Glover for the reminder about the emergency exits. I had looked at beforehand, had all the intentions of mentioning our emergency exits, right, which are the 2 doors on either side of the curtains, but of course the doors you came out, and then immediately to the left should we need them for any emergencies, and I bet we won't, so that will be great. Anyway, moving on, President's Report. Always exciting, wondered what to say tonight. I'm not sure there needs to be much said after what just happened in terms of graduating, everything. We're here working all the long years. But it's been 3 weeks today, right, that we had our opening ceremonies here at the high school. That's always just kind of fun. It has that feel. I'm sure many people are in touch with each other, but you walk in and it's like, you know, hey, I haven't seen you for probably just 8 weeks or something, but all the chatter, the excitement is really awesome. And I'm impressed with just organizations and the people that make it up, especially this one, the one I'm the most proud of is our school district. And grateful for all the efforts that are made to make it what it is, what this district is. When I think about it and what we are as an organization, we're a people organization, and that means that Fairport identity is always about the people and the reaching out, the reaching to the one and making it happen. And I think what we just celebrated represented that in its entirety, right? Making sure that the graduating class of 2018 expanded by 3. And that's what it's about. So grateful for that. We do not have our student advisor here tonight, is that right? Oh, well, okay, so then we will move on to superintendent's report.
Zach, are you out there?
Right here, there's a link. There's a way that I can get to
Oh, there's a link.
No? Try September 25th. Yeah, do that. Go up one. September. It's a great link. Anyways. Well, before I get going, I just want to say thank you. It was an incredible opening. I'd like to thank the board for giving us the framework to love and nurture and meet students where they are. I'd like to thank our incredible custodial staff and buildings and grounds who serve and are on call as needed. And I'm looking out there, and I know that many of our administrators and staff use our B&G and custodial staff in so many different ways, so we appreciate their great efforts. I want to say thank you to our support staff, and our teachers picking up right where you left off. It was amazing. Within 3 days, it felt like we were there for 3 weeks, 3 months. And that speaks to the professionalism. And as a superintendent, that's reassuring. It helps me sleep at night because we have so much command and so much interest in serving our students. Our administrators did a great job of making sure things were ready for our staff. So it took an incredible team effort. I'm grateful for that. And you can't get that link, huh? I had it, but anyways, might have got lost in transition. But what it was this incredible opening day where and it was emblematic. It was on my Twitter page. You can find me on Twitter, and it was a picture of Martha Brown's students. It was an opening day ceremony. Now this opening day ceremony could have occurred in any of our schools. It just happened to be at Martha Brown. I was at Northside. I was at the high school. I was at JP, and there was this great level of excitement that you can only find in a Fairport school. I've been in other districts, fine districts, but the energy and passion to make our students feel welcomed and connected is second to none. So our theme this year is making a difference while serving the whole child, and we're all very proud to be a part of that conversation, and you'll see that theme throughout the year when you visit our buildings, when you hear of all the great initiatives that we're trying to do. We're also focusing on the whole child. For several years, we've been talking about the whole child. It feels good speaking about the whole child. We're trying to define it and be explicit. This was part of our District Advisory Council's charge last year. These are the ASCD whole child tenets. And this year, we're focusing in on 2, district-wide. There's 5, but we're focusing on 2, safe and engaged. So every single school in our district will be talking about the whole child relative to creating safe environments, creating engaging environments. Again, one of the recommendations of our District Advisory Council was to build this coherence and to build this common vocabulary throughout our organization. And I'm proud to say that we are lifting that, and our management plans are sharing and talking about how we are creating safe and engaged environments while we're serving the whole child. If you take a look to the right of safe, you'll see when you see something, say something. That is part of our safety initiative as well for the year. That's on our district website. We'll be talking more about that with the community and sharing with our students. There's a live link where we can make people who feel like they need to report or share information right at their fingertips. Again, it's right on our district website. We'll be communicating it to families via our social media and our principals' newsletters in the very, very near future. We're also, in the name of being safe, we'll be doing a district-wide audit this year of our safety plans and our safety, the safety of our district overall. That will be occurring throughout the year. This safety audit will be processed through our district-wide safety team and come up with recommendations as we move forward. Again, in the name of being very intentional. October 5th will be a superintendent's conference day. Half the day will be focused on safety, bringing in Monroe County Sheriff and our partners with the Fairport Village Police to work with our staff on safety protocols and different strategies to keep our environment safe. And we'll also be spending the second half of that day on the second part of our initiative, and that is being engaged, looking at a coherent curriculum, making sure that we're engaging in high-yield instructional strategies again across the district. So it doesn't matter what school you're going to, our teachers, our students are totally immersed in and committed to this safe and engaged initiative. as we continue to talk about supporting and engaging students, that first bullet up there is just emblematic of the district's commitment to clubs and extracurricular activities. We take that for granted. However, there is a direct correlation to student success in schools being connected to our schools and extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities range from cultural awareness, ethnic initiatives, or supporting student interest, the School of Rock. There's all sorts of clubs, again, over 75 in our district in our secondary level. An incredible commitment. The Fairport Business and Fashion Club will be honored at the Center for Youth annual meeting on September 26th to receive a prestigious Community Advocate Award. And again, it's a way to connect students and engage students to a greater experience and our community. They're receiving this honor for their volunteer efforts during the Fashion Week of Rochester last year. Field trips began, another part of our experiences here in Fairport. Our kindergartners are visiting Chase Farms in the name of science exploration and inquiry-based learning, and FHS students are heading to the public market in October as well. Fall sports is in full swing. I love seeing our playing fields in use. All sorts of different activities occurring. We saw a group of students yesterday. There's 30 students. I counted 32 students in the fitness center working with our U of R fitness trainer. There was girls basketball, boys basketball, and other students in there working with a fitness instructor. So I was really proud and happy to see that as the school year starting. And they're not even in season yet. That's always good to see. And I have to say, the biggest thing that struck me with the graduates was as Sabrina was walking out, she went up to her advisors, Kate Carr and Dave Domenico and Patricia McGrath, and gave them hugs, and the alternative ed program is so important to our district, and it's such a worthy investment because we realize that students are in many different places in their educational journey, and we're proud to provide supporting and engaging environments as such. This year you'll see us continually talking about what is worth celebrating in our schools. Part of our district advisory council, we were told and advised that we need to do a better job of celebrating and sharing what we do. We do so many academic, social, emotional, incredible things. We're going to be creating storylines this year so we can create sort of a tapestry of our version of the whole child. We're starting a STEM update series that will be a weekly series that will talk about what are we doing in science, engineering, mathematics, and technology. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics throughout our schools, all of our schools. And that's a weekly update. We're using our social media to beam that out. The first week was iPads in the elementary library classes. This past week was Chromebooks in the middle schools and how they're being used. And we're going to continue to talk more about the Chase Farm experiences, robotics at the high school, and many, many different opportunities that students get to experience relative to STEM. I'm really looking forward to sharing these storylines and celebrating the great things that our students and staff are doing in this realm and in others. Again, many of you know about the Hack Lab, and we're proud of what they do in the name of inquiry-based learning. Students have been, as the year's starting out, they're starting to use the Hack Lab, and they're doing age-appropriate activities in a maker space. They're engaging in creativity, teamwork, and problem-solving skills, and that's the norm. And if it wasn't for the board's expectations for inquiry-based learning and their hopes to make this spread, the Hack Lab wouldn't come to fruition. My hat's off to the Northside team for building upon this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how our other buildings build upon this idea as we move along. One of the major themes this year, our district goals, is to create management plans. Management plans that put these strategic initiatives in motion. The Board of Education is currently working on a vision statement that they'll be sharing with the community on what college and career readiness means in Fairport. And I think that's the important piece to underscore, is what and how do we perceive 21st century learning in Fairport. Looking forward to sharing that and working with the board to help us become informed on the whole child in 21st century learning. In November, we'll be having a whole child forum for community members, staff members alike, to interact with the whole child tenets, to interact with industry experts, so we can look at the whole child through our own Fairport unique lens. There's lots of work happening with our curriculum and instruction. Our buildings and departments are coordinating on building coherence in our curriculum and our standards, and developing awareness of where we could build our assessments to make sure that our students are progressing academically and social emotionally. Another piece is this idea of fiscal sustainability. We are committed to making sure that we're transparent and that we're sharing our budget timeline and our budget expectations throughout the entire process, using different media outlets, making sure that we're using our systems internally, so people are aware of what our expectations are around fiscal sustainability and this idea of cost containment in all of our buildings. We'll be reporting on how we are containing costs throughout the district, again, using all of our networks and leadership teams to help frame the questions. So when we create budgets and we talk about sustainability, we have this idea of cost containment in mind as we move forward. Facilities planning is alive and well in our schools. If you weren't or were not aware that this past week at our workshop, it was actually September 17th, I believe it was, the Board of Education talked at length about the process for the cost-benefit analysis of consolidating FHS and Minerva DeLand. It was just a talk about the process, and the board really wanted to make sure that there was community engagement. And I sent a letter out this past week that sort of slowed our timeline down. There's lots of entities that we're working with, most notably SED. We're waiting on lots of data analysis, and the board wants to be extremely methodical and engage the community. So there'll be plenty of time for staff and community members to be learning about what we're learning and getting feedback so the board can make an informed decision, and that's going to be around April. And one thing that's important to know, if the board chooses to consolidate Minerva and the high school, it won't happen next year. It's a 4 to 5 year process, as the communication that I sent out earlier this week stated. But we'll be talking more about that as we move along, and I know the intentional effort to engage community members will be appreciated, so we can move people along in this process. That's all I have. Lots of information there, lots of excitement happening in our schools. Looking forward to homecoming this week. Again, nobody does homecoming like Fairport does homecoming. We're proud to share in the community excitement and celebrate all the wonder and joy of our schools. So thank you to the high school for coordinating that event, and to all the schools for joining in on the joyous occasion of homecoming. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brett. Perhaps less sexy, but it's important to pay for all those things. So treasurers and investment update, Matt.
Okay, good evening and thank you. This month we have 2 treasurers and reports to go over due to the timing of year end and such. So first, for June 2018, we had a beginning balance of $51.3 million, receipts of $5.9 million, disbursements of $22.1 million, for an ending cash balance of $35.1 million. That's up slightly from last year as we look to finalize our audit, which will be reviewed in the future by the Audit and Finance Committee with our auditors. The ending cash balance is up a little bit due to the ability to fund the capital reserve, but also we did spend down some other reserves on the same side, so it would be net of those figures. So you'll hear more about that as we finalize the audit with Ray Weiger's firm. Of that 35 million, 15.1 million is invested in insured cash sweep account. And for the month of July 2018, we had a beginning balance of 35.1 million, receipts of 333,000, and disbursements of 2.2 million for an ending cash balance of 33.3 million. 22 million of that is invested, a combination of T-bills, CDs, and ICS, insured cash sweep account. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on any of these? Okay, we are at the approval of the consent calendar. Again, no discussions around these items, but a motion to approve the consent calendar. Joyce, second. Kevin, all in favor? 7-0. Personnel actions, instructional staff actions, which goes through the bottom of page 4 with the motion there written at the top of page 5, right? If a motion to approve those staff actions. Maureen, first. Second. Joyce, any questions or comments on that area?
I just have a question, of course. Childhood education is now labeled as 1-6. What is the certification now for people in kindergarten? For people who are teaching kindergarten?
There's a B2, which is birth through 2. So in order to teach kindergarten, you'd either have to have the I don't want to call it the dinosaur, but the older certificate, which is K-12, or you would have the newer, which is birth through 2 and 1 through 6. So we do see a number of people who will be pursuing both B2 and 1-6, but these here are pursuing the 1. There's no B6, I know.
No bingo, is it?
I know, sorry.
It just, I said, where's the K in this? And is that making it more difficult to get people? Or is, as you say, are more people just automatically, I see many times you'll see a teacher, and I see this in this list here, of people who will get childhood education and ability to work with students with disabilities as their certification areas. And when I saw this, taking the initial group of teachers out of that area, it felt, interesting is the nicest word I can think of right now, but it didn't quite feel right or easy.
At the end of the day, we have a teacher shortage. We continue to have a teacher shortage, which is challenging at our recruitment efforts for substitutes and for permanent teachers. But I think it also depends on where the individual is going to school. Certain programs are not offering the B2. They're offering the 1-6, and they're also recommending the 1-6 special education. I do see other schools where I see a number of candidates coming out that are having the B2 and the 1-6. So I think some of that may be dependent on where the student is taking their particular program.
I just wondered because it feels like the B2s would be in the BKs or whatever, would be in a more difficult situation because so many preschool teachers earn so much less money than a person in a school district. And so why, excuse me, I love kindergartners. There are some people who are really gifted in that area and they are not me. Why would someone aim for something that would be sort of set up to give you less money?
I think we do have a number of educators who truly do want to work in a primary school setting, and the B2 certification would allow them to do that. The 1-6 would not allow them to teach kindergarten. It would limit them to teaching grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But I think that's really an individual decision that I couldn't speak to. I do encourage.
Any thoughts on why the state
doesn't do like a
K6?
K6?
Right.
Smarter people in Albany would know than I say that with most respect for those, but I couldn't explain that to you, and I don't know that others could either. But I'm sure in their wisdom there was a reason behind it.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where I said, no, it used to be K6.
Yeah.
And I don't remember when it has changed, but at the beginning there, you look at these things again more carefully. And I go, okay. Because I always look at these and so many of our people are working towards state certification. But it may not be what we always need.
Thanks, Maureen. You put me in a box for a moment there. I heard B2 and thought, what about the 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds? But B through second grade, right? So any other questions or comments?
Yes, and the other one, what's a teacher immersion fellow?
That is the program through Monroe 2 BOCES, where there are students who are enrolled in an accredited program seeking certification to become a teacher, and that program provides them with professional development. But they also commit to serve as a substitute teacher for us on a particular given number of days. We were fortunate in what's called the draft to find a number of fellows, and we'll have one placed in every building, as we did last year. But the fall, we will not have a fellow placed at one of our schools because we weren't able to secure enough fellows. We do receive aid back on when they work for us. We're able to submit back and receive aid on them substituting for us.
This was a program we joined last year, right? We started.
We did, and we hope that it's one that's mutually beneficial to both the student, giving them an exceptional experience in Fairport, but also for us to help us fill our substitute teacher vacancies.
Those are mine.
Just a quick question. I don't want to open up Pandora's box, obviously, but I thought when we had done the agenda review last week or this week that there was a position here that we were filling at the high school to help out with some of the overcrowded lab situation.
That's a non-instructional, so it's coming. We just haven't got there yet.
Okay.
But it is on the agenda. You're correct.
Okay. All right. We'll have we'll have a different period where we can talk about that.
Yes.
When you get to see.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
So anything else with those, section A? All in favor? B is specific to athletics, right? We need approval for individual to serve as a volunteer coach. Motion to approve, Joyce. Second, Kevin. Questions, comments? All in favor? Then C, non-instructional and civil service staff actions. This, although we'll come back, I think it's on that page 5 that you want, Damon, but this takes us all the way through middle of page 7, so all the different actions here. A motion to approve these. Brett, sorry, other side, Damon. Second,
Brett, you can't approve, sorry.
Marty. And so now, your question, or?
Well, it's just a comment. I mean, I realized that we had a lot of discussion around some unintended overcrowded conditions in some classrooms. And I think just to have a public discussion about some of the issues that we have. I'm not sure that we have a resolution for it, certainly, and I think that this is helpful in certain conditions, but I think that we do have identified maybe a gap in the process. So hopefully, I mean, we can feel relatively secure that we're going to have this type of thing addressed in the future and make sure that we're looking not only at numbers or average numbers, but within each class at the needs of the students and the barriers of the physical room and the setting and the curriculum to make sure that we have a connected and safe environment.
Yeah, I think that point's well taken. First of all, I appreciate the advocacy. I'm happy that our teachers feel comfortable advocating and sharing their needs, especially as they started the year. We want to make sure that all of our students and our staff are set up for success. And when we talk about our class sizes and the expectations of, having class sizes that are within certain limits, we have to look at our facilities. First of all, our current science classrooms and labs were built in 1970, and their 1970 sizes. Standards have, changed and evolved through the years. But we also need to make sure that we're, scheduling with regulators in mind. Labs, science class have labs attached to them, and, being aware and maybe, widening are giving more latitude for class sizes and sectioning to be supportive of appropriate ratios. And I know that I've had great conversations with Bob Clark and his team, and the lead teacher Julie Marshall as well.
In this section, there's just two little corrections that need to be made, if you wouldn't mind. Mr. Hyman reached out to us today and shared that he wasn't ready to retire in 2018, and he'd like to retire in 2019.
Well, it's on the original, I had mentioned it to Ariel, it's on the original information that we had from you, that it would be 2019, so then when I saw this name, I said, oh, one of these has to be changed.
Right.
So,
I think in copying it may just have, we're on a 2018 kick, we haven't really rolled over to 19. And also, when you see the personnel leave of absence on page 7, we anticipate that that employee will be out through the end of the school year, so that would also be through 2019.
Okay. Anything else? Other questions or comments? All in favor? And D, amend memorandum of agreement as outlined. Need a motion to approve this memorandum? Maureen, second. Judy, any questions? Okay, all in favor? 7-0. And then E, employment agreement of superintendent of schools. This is our annual, well, maybe we're behind a month. So a motion to approve this agreement? Damon and Maureen, second. Questions, comments? All in favor? 7-0. So presentations, capital project update. Is that you, Mr. Stevens?
We have George Spineris with Campus Construction Management to present on the transportation facility project.
Hello, hope everybody's doing well. It's on. So I'd like to talk to you about the 2016 Transportation Facilities Capital Project. Total project budget breakdown, 2016 Transportation Facility Capital Project and 2015 Capital Improvement Project. The Transportation Facility Capital Project has two items, line items. Incidental budget is $1,839,000. Construction contingency budget is $403,100. Construction contracts budget is $9,007,000. Transportation facility referendum is close to $9,895,957,700. 215 SIP referendum is $782,680. Yes. Sorry. Adjusted construction contingency budget is $403,100. The approved change orders to date are $25,406. Remaining contingency, construction contingency is $377,694. Construction project is approximately 95% complete. The 35. No, I'm sorry, what did I say? Oh, sorry. I'm being aggressive. Contingency budget is 6% spent. Contract allowances approved totals is $31,355. Project team is following approximately $247,841 in pending issues.
Those issues hit the contingency budget if they're?
Yeah, we're drawing off of that. We're actually tracking different items that might be a change order issue, but you know, it's actually being vetted out and we're looking at different options.
Is that well within?
Yes.
Parameters good for contingency, we'll still be okay on that? Or?
Yes, we should be. The heavy lifting was the site work, and basically now that we're almost past the site work, then it should be actually pretty smooth sailing at this point.
Just curious, can you give me as an example of a contingency item that wasn't anticipated?
Sure. We had unforeseen soils. Basically, when we were taking one of the oil tanks out, or one of the fuel tanks, there was some oil residue, so we had to abate that or remove that. And by doing that, that caused, well, it was, again, an unforeseen condition, so monies were spent to clean up the site and remove the oil from the ground, pretty much. So that's one example.
Okay. All right. So I drive by there a few times a week just to take a look, and I actually live past there. But anyway, So the buses are back there,
Indeed.
and I see that you have like a corner of the lot sort of sectioned off for people to use to come in and go out, and the rest of the construction's happening. Is that, logistically, is that working okay?
That's the way it was planned, and so far, so good. Basically, again, if you're facing the property, on the right side, it's for construction vehicles only, and on the left side, it's primarily for the buses and for parents or any type of drop-off.
Yep.
We put signage up there, and it's working pretty well.
Okay.
Sometimes people filter in, but we try to watch them.
The shuttling of the drivers is working okay?
Very well. The drivers have been great. I mean, they've really embraced us and really have helped us on site, and they're engaged in the process and asking questions and watching, and they've been wonderful on site.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
So Northside Elementary School and Dudley Elementary School, we started the work in March, around March 26th of 2018, and to date, all of that work on both of those locations has been completed. We're just waiting for the architect to set up a schedule so we can punch it out. But right now, everything has been completed on both of those sites.
One question about
Yes, sir.
about that particular site. I know on the other side of, I'm not sure if it's Whitney right there on the corner, but there's that big mound of dirt. Is that our dirt? Or is that somebody else's dirt?
I am not. Oh, okay. I'm not sure. I'd have to look
Okay.
at it, but
All right.
if it is ours, we'll make sure to take care of it. But
Yeah,
I believe it's all taken care of, but I'll check.
Okay.
I'll check tomorrow.
All right.
And it'll be gone by next month.
I'm not saying, it might be somebody else's big mound of dirt.
I'd have to take a look.
Just curious.
Transportation Center, site work to follow in September, October is the Fuel Island Foundation work. That's been actually installed in preparation for the canopy installation. We're actually setting up the borders for the Fuel Island. We'll be working on a retention pond, the oil separator, and then the north property line, we're finishing off with the sidewalk and cleaning that area up, getting ready for snow. Installation of conduit for the fuel islands is ongoing, and we plan on boring under the road for the fiber optic lines, I believe, next week. Building construction-wise, this month, we're working on masonry for both stair towers. Actually, they're done, and the elevator shaft is done. Work is progressing quickly. We're actually working on the west wall at this point. So masonry work in the bus wash area, that's ongoing. Steel erection, as you can see, it's being put up. We're missing one rafter. Unfortunately, it was sent to us wrong, but it didn't slow down the progress of work. Plumbing rough out in the restrooms and bus wash trench drains, that work has commenced. And the electrical rough out is ongoing in the masonry wall. So as they're building the walls, we're actually putting conduit in the walls so that they're buried, so all the outlets and all the rough-ins are being done at the same time. So these are a little dated because everything is moving so quickly, but this is the floor preparation on the west side. So this is pretty much where the offices are and the stair towers. So this is in prep for concrete, and you can see the stair tower on the far upper left side. This is them actually pouring the floor, and this is a week later, and you can see the superstructure behind it is going up and how far it's gone up in a matter of a week. So all the concrete has been poured in this section. This is starting of the steel, so these are the columns that were actually erected. This is the plank. This is going over the bus wash area, and this encapsulates the bus wash area, so it makes it pretty much waterproof. This is the rafter assembly. So the big rafters that you see of the roof structure is actually built and assembled on the floor, and then it's hoisted up and set into place and then braced. We're missing one section, as I mentioned earlier, but we should have that by next week. There we go. So these are the purlins that are being connected, so it basically stabilizes and sets us up for a roof structure. And we took a few aerials. So this is actually from a drone. So it pretty much shows you the rafter on the ground that was being lifted up into place and the purlins and the preparation for the concrete work. It's a rear view. Pretty much you can see some of the buses that were installed. As far as the asphalt, it's just a binder right now. What we're going to do is we're going to wait to see if anything settles. So in the springtime, we'll put our final top coat on and restripe it. This is another view from actually the farmland coming across. So you can see that the bus wash area and the stair tower is erected. And this is a great job from the front. You can see all the buses are put into place, and bus drivers actually really enjoy it because there is so much space behind it. It was very well designed, so it's pretty easy for them to get in and out of the space. And that's all I have. Any other questions?
So, I'm just curious, when the building is erected, and it looks very large, by the way, dwarfs the other building, and I think it's going to be very nice, but what's the method you're going to use to deconstruct the old building? Are you going to implode it or knock it down with a ball? Or, and when can we watch? Can we?
Well, there are going to be a few bulldozers that'll probably take it apart.
All right.
Yeah, it'd be nice to implode it, but we have a brand-new building next door. But no, we take bulldozers down. It's methodically removed. There are some contents within the building that are going to be kept, that are going to be removed and reinstalled into the new building. So once those are removed, we'll just basically piecemeal it and take it apart. Yeah, not too exciting.
We'll watch.
Thank you.
Just give us a get, we'll get the hard hats and come over.
Love to have you over.
George, I appreciate all the work and partnerships with Mr. Stevens and Mr. Trullo. You guys are doing a great job communicating and supporting this work, so thank you to all of you.
Yeah, I enjoy working with them. Thank you.
No other questions or comments? We'll invite Bob Clark back up to talk about the student exit surveys.
Do you have us ready to go? Twice in one night, this is a little rare. Appreciate the opportunity. So we're just going to talk a little bit about exit surveys that we've been doing with seniors for the last few years. This is sort of born out of conversations that I have monthly with the superintendent, Mr. Provenzano, just to talk about some of the things that we've put in place as an administrative team and to see if they're effective and to seek input from our customers, if you will, and our students. So over the last 3 years, we developed a survey that we review each year and tweak and add a little bit more questions to. We usually conduct it in the last week of the school year just to kind of get a little bit of a feel, a little bit of the tone on what the experience has been like. So we have some measures that we've used in the past during our academic excellence things. You know, we send out surveys of that kind of nature, but this drills down just a little bit deeper. So we're just going to go over a little bit of the context of the survey, some of the strengths and some of the things that we're working on. So some of the culture, or some of the areas that we tried to cover in this year's iteration of the survey was just talking about the culture at Fairport High School, some of the learning experiences that students have had outside the classroom, participation in extracurricular activities, their personal experiences with our staff, some of the facilities, and because we've addressed so many things, just getting a temperature on where kids are at with the facilities. Talking about the services of our guidance office and student services, and then how they feel in terms of their preparation for college and career. So I know that you've seen the survey before, and happy to discuss it at length with you at any time, but just kind of give you for the rest of the people that are here tonight, just a kind of a general sense of things, the rating scales that we used. So this is some of the areas that we take a look at in culture, whether or not students felt like they had a meaningful connection to their teachers, their knowledge of the Dignity for All Students Act, our Proud to be a Raider theme that we've instituted about 4 years ago, trying to get a sense if that's working with kids. Homecoming, because we went through so many changes 3 or 4 years ago, just to see if that was good, and some other things like Brotherhood and Sisterhood Week and the senior trip. And if you take a look at the far right, there's a lot of data there, obviously. And this is something that we take the time over the summertime to review as an administrative team. And we figure there's going to be outliers on the high side and the low side, but I think the averages kind of tell us a little bit of a story, and in many regards affirm a lot of the things that we've done with regards to culture. And we've been using that as a basis to expand certain things that we do. For example, in Proud to be a Raider, that's something that we build around our character education program. We've tried to highlight assets of the month, and I know when you do your board visits, we share those shirts with you and try to have you understand where we're at with that program. It's not necessarily a Student of the Month club, but we're trying to recognize as much positive student behavior as we can. So our hope is that all of our students, 1,500 students, would be walking around with a Proud to be a Raider shirt. This year, the big difference in the way that we've tweaked that and used it to continue to move forward with the affirmation of students that they enjoy it is that we were up this year for the introduction of PBIS. And so for PBIS for us, I know that you were just in the cafeteria and we took the signs down, but in the hallways, you'll see some of the posters and the messaging that we're trying to share with students focusing on the 3 R's, responsibility, respect, and resiliency, which is a big part of the work that we're focused on this year. And so again, the survey and how it informs our decision-making was to affirm the Proud to be a Raider character education stuff that we're doing, and then to add to our new work, which was adopting the PBIS themes that we've been given the charge to do. Some of the other takeaways that we had this year in terms of the entire survey, the focus on facilities. You know, there's been a lot of affirmation from our kids with regards to the bathrooms and how they feel safe, which ties in with the whole child tenets and our focus on safe and engagement. But there were some comments about the cleanliness and the appearance of Cafeteria C. And while we have long-range vision plans in dreams of different cafeterias, in the meantime, we are focusing on working with Ross and our painter to, you know, give it a fresh coat and see if we can make what we have work a little bit longer. We're going to put some more student artwork in there and give them a little bit of a feel for, you know, owning that space a little bit more and giving them something they feel safe and engaged in. So it applies to all. You know, I think that this, I guess I would say to you anecdotally that I think we underestimate sometimes how these common spaces really impact our student culture. And I think the bathrooms were a great example of that. And we put a lot of time and attention and resources into making them nice, and our kids appreciate that. And cafeterias are another one of those areas we're trying to get after this year. The other focus I would say that we took out of our survey, and this is something that's been ongoing for the last 3 or 4 years, was focused around the If You Only Knew Me results that we had from students and our constant focus on mental health. I know you probably saw recently through Jen's help, we were able to connect with Channel 8 and do a little highlight on the mental health grant that we received and the coloring walls. So we've taken that one step further. And as a result of our capital project, we had 2 leftover rooms, if you will, that we kind of held back on assigning to anyone in particular. And we used them for common space and for testing and that kind of thing. But this year, we're going to take room 142, which has some flexible space in that. We're going to use that for group counseling. And we, taking an idea that we borrowed from a learning walk that we participated over in Brighton last year, we recognize that this is going to be a space for our students to participate in group counseling. And our mental health staff has had a sort of a say in designing what the room would look like. Again, some flexible seating, some de-escalation type opportunities in that, and we're excited about the opportunities that'll present for this year. So just a few examples of some of the things that are in the survey that we use as an opportunity to build on things that we are already doing or to identify things that we might need to change in this coming school year. These are just a few examples of the things that I was just talking about, the posters and the messaging that we've been putting up around the building with regards to PBIS to support the work that we're doing with that. So we have these posters in the hallways, in the bathrooms, and in the cafeterias. On the lower left here and up in the upper right, just an example of our students utilizing the coloring walls, which we're proud to also say that it's kind of spreading a little bit, not just beyond purchasing the actual coloring walls, but our art classes are now designing some of the artwork that would go up on the walls for them to then color, which we thought would be a nice kind of Fairport stamp on that. So we're excited to see what our art class comes up with. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions with regards to the exit survey?
Just in terms of mindfulness, I know there's a big theme around mindfulness. Can you just talk a little bit about what's happening at the high school around that?
Yeah, we've had a number of staff that have participated in various forms of professional development around mindfulness and de-escalation techniques, and so it kind of runs the gamut. We have some teachers that start and end classes with forms of meditation. It's been a very productive way for teachers to have students decompress for 3-4 minutes at the beginning of a class. So you kind of have to go by department. Everybody puts their own spin on it, sure. But it's something that's been very effective. But we're taking that one step further, and a lot of our actual people on the front lines of some of that stress are really our secretaries and guidance counselor staff, and so they've also experienced some of the training around that stuff as well.
Awesome.
Yep. Anybody else with regards to the survey? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to share with you.
I appreciate the effort, and I appreciate the openness and willingness to engage and ask our our students, how are we doing and how can we continue to improve? And this is just the beginning of greater conversations on how we could touch base with students, not only who are exiting, but who have journeyed through our schools and now are 4 or 5 years out. We want to continually ask, how are we doing? And I think that's a great strategy, and thank you for being open to it and continuing to improve on the survey each year.
Yeah, and kudos to Cass, has talked to us a number of times about how are we going to continue this beyond Fairport High School. And our kids are a little reticent to give us email addresses on the way out the door. That is part of our survey. And some fill it in and some don't, but I do think we want to track that longitudinal data and find out, are our kids really prepared? So thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Hey, Mr. Clark, as a father of a senior last year, I can tell you that she was really prepared. So,
We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Okay, board discussion action items. First one here are board policies, our first reading. We have 4 policies there. One policy, is it 3 policies and 1 regulation? Yeah. So motion to approve our first reading? Anyone? Sorry, Marty, and second Joyce. Discussion questions? I have one, but, or a couple. Anybody else? Meal charging. Is there significance to the removal of the parents sending messages that say, don't allow your child to buy?
Is that a regulation, or is that part of the?
It was part of the policies, and
I think it belongs in regulations. I'm not sure if it's there.
well, it was crossed out, and the reason I bring it up is having personal experience with almost all of my children sooner or later buying meals that they weren't supposed to be buying, right? And suddenly we're finding out that they've emptied their account within a few days instead of, you know, maybe weeks or something. But I didn't know if that means that, I'm not sure what that means by having it removed. So no, this is part of the policy 5662, right? Unless a student, parent, or guardian has specifically provided written permission to the district to withhold a meal. That's under the charging side, right? But I didn't know if the law had required us to remove such language, or why we would not allow parent involvement and things like that.
Okay, Joyce,
I
did you want
think
me to?
that parents still can limit, if that's what you're talking about, where you limit them from buying dessert, for example.
So it's not saying that. I guess that's what I'm saying. I
Right,
can still,
right.
you know, so they
This
stop
was
buying
more
breakfast.
connected to the, from the state's end of it, more to the meal shaming sort of thing, and multiple notices to parents about low account balances that could be difficult depending on the circumstances that brought that about. So it really has a whole different intent than what you're talking about.
Yes, I assumed, but I wanted to kind of make
Yeah.
sure that we're not
That's
taking
my
away
recollection.
a parent's right to call in and say, hey,
No,
stop.
I believe that's still in place, based on my own family.
Unless the student's parent provided written permission, so the parent can provide the written permission. If they have not, then the
If they have not, then they will be able to buy.
then we'll give them the lunch.
Okay. And then on one other, wellness, this really isn't about the policy, just wondered, it always seems to be student-centric. Have we ever enhanced for staff as a whole, for our adult population? It seems like the healthcare industry always likes wellness programs, but when it's a policy, does it just have to apply to the students, or are we? No, not advocating. No, the wellness policy now.
I don't have the policy in front of me, but I believe there is actually a line or two in there in terms of staff wellness and programming
So
around that.
I missed it. No, it's just overall for discussion for us. It wasn't necessarily about this policy per se, as much as, you know, policies in general. It might have to do with, partly with the RASH, right? The Rochester Area Health School Plan that we participate in with everybody else in Monroe County. What types of wellness programs are supported, if any? Do we have any, do you know, through that?
They do offer wellness programs. I know that a number of our buildings also have wellness committees that are specifically geared towards students, but also focusing on staff members. In terms of something more organized at a district level, we have looked at that, and we are in conversations with people from RASP about it, but we have not yet set that up.
Thanks.
One of the big things with RASP is they do have the, can't remember the title of it, but it's the magazine that comes out to all folks, and then they encourage districts to kind of, try to submit articles and tell stories about how they're doing wellness programs within their own district. So that's a piece that, if you receive it, read it, because it's got some great information in it.
Anyway, again, not necessarily about that policy, just triggered that question in my mind. So I don't have anything else. Anybody else? All in favor then of the first reading? 7-0. B, agreement for professional consultant services. All right, this is Rochester Medical Faculty Group. Need a motion to approve? Joyce first, Marty second. Any questions? All in favor?
I do have a question, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
Brett, in the consultant services, I noticed that there was a piece where it said they were going to be training all of our health teachers with the thought that they would then turn around and use it in their classrooms, use it with other staff. Do we anticipate that some of this might be going down as we begin more of the training the trainers? As more of our staff gets trained in these areas, or will this, we expect this will be just ongoing?
Well, that's always been the goal, is to begin, teaching our staff how to fish, if you will, and not rely on strong behavior health. I don't have a specific answer to that question that you have, but that's been the goal with strong behavior health, is use them as for their expertise, learn from them in different areas, and then gradually release.
If I'm not mistaken, this number is down slightly.
It is.
So
Yeah.
I think the fact that, train the trainer or cascading these skills out to more staff members already is taking effect, and that number's gone down.
Yeah, and that's a credit to our professional staff and to the work of Deb Miles, Student Services Director, to again, gradually release and to continually strive to build capacity.
Any other questions? Well, we already voted, right? So, thanks.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. C, new extra classroom activity. This is the Red Zone Varsity Club submitted. A motion to approve. Joyce? Kevin, second.
Who's the student head of that red zone now?
Yep. You almost caught me.
So, all in favor? 7-0, and the next one on there, extra classroom activity, the Environmental Club at Martha Brown. Motion to approve. Kevin first, Marty second. All in favor? 7-0. Transportation contract with National Express. A motion to approve that contract. Marty first, Judy second. Any questions about this one?
Yeah, so what does this contract entail?
This is, the bid award took place, I believe, the last board meeting. This is related to the transportation routes we had to contract out for our private school runs out of district due to our driver shortage and for efficiency. So this is just approving the contract piece of it. So the bid was approved at the last board meeting. This is just the contract itself that we're able to execute and send into SED. Thank you.
Okay, F, school-sponsored field, oh, we didn't vote, sorry. All in favor? 7-0. School-sponsored field trips. Motion to approve those that were submitted. Joyce first, second Kevin. Questions, comments? All in favor? 7-0. And then G, technology plan. The approval of our technology plan through 2021. Motion to approve. Maureen, second. Kevin? And I purposely saved a little bit for this. If we're trying to debate and setting the agenda, whether to have this under presentation or discussion action items, and have Mr. Devitt here, right, for, I guess, questions or comments related to it. We've seen it for a while. It's a long document. I probably don't understand most of it. But after the Education 2030 Forum, just a couple weeks ago, the wording that was presented was interesting to me, because and for you, Tom, it's how we manage it. Because I love the wording they use, which is move from being forward thinking, which is doing what you do now and figuring out how to do it better or keep up to date, versus future thinking, right, which is looking way down the road and thinking, what do our kindergartners need to know by the time they graduate? And although we can't possibly know that, how do we prepare ourselves to teach them in the now for a future that is really unknown? And when the technology area, it is unknown, right? We have no idea what it's going to be like 13 years from now, because the graduating class this year didn't have iPhones. They didn't exist at the time, right? And now they're connected to everybody almost as an appendage. So how does a plan handle that? That's been kind of my question with technology, because we have to update equipment, there's no doubt about it, refresh it, get it handling bandwidth or whatever, but how do we get to being future thinking as well in a technology plan? So it's a broad question, Tom. Sorry they make it hard, but.
Stakeholder groups that we work with to review all of the different pieces that face us each fall and spring and whatnot.
You're welcome to come up to the microphone, by the way. Sorry.
Tom, can you talk a little about the TVT?
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. The Technology Vision Team has been around for over nine or 10 years, and that group has really helped us deal with the landscape that has changed. And the difference between 2008 through 2013 and 2014, the work that group did is it's really evolved because the pace of change has evolved. And as things speed up, it's more and more critical to be able to really focus on communication and professional development to keep people abreast of all the change, so that we can, as a group, make decisions on together where it all fits for our students. So it's really easy to work with these groups. It's easy to make shared decisions. It's easy to make decisions together and pilot things when everybody's voice is there. So for me, it's been a pleasure to not only work with the teachers, but also to feel as though as we take these steps forward, everybody knows that we're going to learn things on the way. And as you try the new things, you're going to be prepared to take a step back if things don't work. We've been working through a lot of different projects on fiscal responsibility, whether it's centralized print management, and how do we slowly learn how that's going to impact our classrooms without sweepingly changing the way we deliver instruction today. So having that type of climate where I've been able to work closely with those groups to really make sure that whatever happens is immediately capable of being worked with together really helps all that.
Do we have teachers who are engaging in sandboxes, if you will, trying different technologies out in the classroom, whether it's the 3D experiential learning? I know that Kristen Larson did a lot of that last year with some of the science department and technology classes. But what's happening where they can dabble?
Yeah, actually, the makeup of the Technology Vision Team, the original charge, and it's been pervasive throughout the years, is such that they are assigned the latest technology equipment. They actually have the rights to be able to install software. They can make requests on new apps and new pieces. So that sandboxing is part of the charge of a TVT member. It's a 3-year assignment that the teachers from all different levels across all the buildings, it's up to 15 members right now. We meet 3 times a year. But we constantly go back and forth and work through all the new technologies. They have their projects, they have PD, they have communications that they have to provide to the buildings. So not only are they sandboxing, but they're also being an ear for how things are progressing in the building as it happens. A lot of the details that you see in the technology plan, there's 70 pages. That's because technology is massive and expansive in regards to the software systems that are quickly replacing all the paper workflows and the paperless systems. And with each of those comes a necessity to really communicate with the people that are using those systems. So it's a very, very important relationship that we have.
So allow me to ask, I'm sorry, unfair speculative questions to some degree. Financing these things, so we have again the refresh items, and then you have some really cool sandbox type things that are being played with. We know that things like these laptops, they've gotten cheaper. Computers gotten so cheap when I think about what I bought when I was first in college, right? And so it brings down the price, and yet then all these new things come out. Now they come out more frequently. We could quickly fall behind. Is a static amount of IT to say that because some things gotten cheaper, but new things are coming on? You know, in your history here with the school district, is this roughly a static amount serve us, or how do we manage those ebbs and flows, more flows than ebbs, changes in technology?
I think equity and access, the parts that really speak to that is as the commodities, the commoditization of technology allows for more equity and access with cheaper devices that give you access to technology. What you're finding is that equity and access is growing. So the ability to have more devices in the students' hands or teachers' hands, the ability to access more content is just becoming more affordable. Do I see a bell curve of where there's going to be a tipping point? Well, how many students we have? Yes. I mean, that's a tipping point.
Well, just really briefly, though, think about the evolution of Google Docs and how the Google platform and how it's used in the classroom, how teachers, it's commonplace to see them conference with students right online in the middle of class and give feedback, or to use technology in ways that they didn't use 3 years ago because it is more commonplace. The projectors or the smart boards, I don't know what you call them these days, but those have evolved as well too.
Yeah, I mean, as education just makes shifts from paper to pen to more collaborative environments where you can have multiple people writing on the same piece of paper at the same time in an environment like a Google, you're seeing that those devices are critical to really providing that gateway to learning. The world of work that they're going to walk into, a third grader right now, 10, 12, 15 years is going to be, a very different place than even our seniors are walking into.
What we're talking about right now is we're talking about, endpoint devices or what's actually in the student's hands or the teacher's hands for instruction. But the technology plan, as you've outlined it, is really much, much more than it's information systems and hardware and software that provides the infrastructure. And those costs don't necessarily decrease with the amount of decrease in students, although you can do more. You can do more with that. You can do external things. What I like about your plan, Tom, is that it's not deterministic. It's not locked in, right? It's flexible enough. So, because I think that what are opportunities for us in 3 years, you don't even know what they are right now, right? And along the way, there'll be things that so the plan is adaptable enough to be able to take in new things, try it out, and adopt it or not. And so that's a good thing. One thing I would say is a little bit of a highlight or concern for me is that we don't have all of our technology wrapped in this plan, right? And we've defined a lot of the technology, but in my mind, telephony or telephone systems or communication systems, that's technology, right? So we don't have all the technology in the district wrapped into the single plan, and I would really think, I know that's legacy, the way we pay for it or whatever, but I think that this is all coming together. So from a security, communication, collaboration, whatever you want to call it, it's all coming together, and what I would really like to see is fold that into this plan, make sure that we have a single plan that encompasses all the technology.
And we made sure that we did incorporate the communication systems into this document. So, I know that was something that we talked about, and that was good feedback, and I know that Tom and Mr. Chula went back and began integrating these ideas, and we could definitely report on that as we move, and start reporting on the progress of this plan. It's definitely in the body of this.
Yeah, but I think, Damon, you're bringing up a good point. There's a lot of services and a lot of technology pieces that sit on top of the systems. I mean, we're in the plan. We have a lot of details regarding converging the networks, pulling the security camera systems, the phone systems onto this data network, and finding fiscal savings in reducing some of the redundancies to our network of the past. So, I mean, that's in there, but I understand what you're saying with the services and piece, which is really what we're looking at in our curriculum and instruction piece as well, is that once you have all these access devices, whether they're phones or Chromebooks or whatnot, the next piece is really what is the framework for how we do business together, whether it's learning or whether it's communicating, so.
Listen, I think this is great.
Thank you.
I know a lot
Thank
of the
you.
hard work that went into this,
Thank you.
and I think it's awesome that you have a
Thank you.
comprehensive plan like this. And what I think is equally as awesome about it is that it's not just a document that you're going to put in a book and put it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be something that is living and breathing, and you're going to be, steering your efforts and your team. And I just saw that you had a promotion, if you will, on your team here in our approvals, which is great.
Thank you.
But I think it's going to chart the forward motion for you guys. So that's good.
It's communication is the hardest thing to do in a world that's quickly speeding up. And so, I mean, this piece is that tool, that operational chart on the end of the technology plan. It's my hope that that can help to provide a window and help continue with shared communication. So, thank you for your support.
And I think what I hear in the dialogue that I think, Damon, you got more from that document than I did, because you know how to read it. To quote one of the many famous people we have in this school district, we have a lot, but to quote one of them is about the hack lab, is if the hack lab is still a lab 5 years from now, then we're kind of failing as a school district, right? And when I think about the article I posted on the issues impacting school about that school that built from the ground up, right, the number of maker spaces, I think maker space is that a separate lab where students go to, or is it the classroom, right? The maker space is now the classroom, and that's where 21st century education has to go. So to me, that says one of our challenges, and I think what I was hearing is it's flexible enough, hopefully, that we can change, because it's a challenge to change, and we're going to have to learn to change more quickly. One of the quotes from Education 2030 that I thought was profound is illiteracy in our century is someone who's unable to learn, unlearn, and then relearn. All right, that it will change so fast that sometimes you have to unlearn what you knew and relearn, and technology's that, all right? You talked about managing printing. Well, I loved it for it just to go away and get rid of the paper altogether in some ways, right? But that's hard for some people. It's hard so change for an organization. I think that's going to be one of our future, challenges now is how quickly can we change and be flexible.
That's a pretty profound statement you just made, and that is that in 5 years, if we're still using the same technology we are today, we're still teaching the same curriculum. If we're doing that in 5 years, then we're basically 5 years behind, right?
It's called regions.
Yep. So, anyway.
Anybody else already dominated a lot of that, but it's a big plan. It was, 70 pages, as you said, and I just want to use technology, but that was Greek to me, so.
Not a picture or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, the big piece is I wanted to at least create a bit of a summary of the extensive trust that you have and the backing that everybody has in these systems. I mean, if people aren't aware of the compartments and the categories of all the systems that we support, it's hard for a board to stand up and make a lot of these, the tech reserve votes and put all that stuff up there. So, I mean, without having that story to be able to share with the public, it's really another really solid communication piece that I hope supports all of our work.
So I would imagine as we move along, we'll continue to work with the board and choose progress monitoring focus areas. It is an expansive plan, and I wouldn't say that we're going to tackle it all at once, but we can throughout the years or each year identify 2 or 3 areas to report on, so you're well aware and we can inform the board and grow with this report.
Yeah, and keep us informed on changes as they happen, because obviously it's a plan, but 2021 in the realm of technology is, crazy to even think we know.
Yeah, and that's why that's going to be a year-to-year.
I know it's going to be a living document that has
year-to-year,
to grow.
we're going to have that same chart filled out so you can really see all the progress on all those categories. And then really what I was thinking about too is through constructing this, the strategic plan kind of folds right around it. This was created halfway through the strategic plan coming in on top of that. So, I'm really kind of thinking about how we're going to continue to wrap that in there and make sure that that plan supports all those pieces too. So, a lot of it does, a lot of overlap already. So, I think it's going to work pretty well.
Thank you, Tom.
I do, you presented the hashtag STEM at Fairport Central School District, and I checked that out on Twitter. Saw it there, and so that's cool. One thing I don't think, and I think that we've seen evidence of that the last couple of weeks, is that we don't necessarily advertise or communicate to the community at large the technology that we're using, that we're enabling, or we're providing to our students and teachers. And I'm not sure we have to necessarily, but to some degree there's some miscommunication or misinterpretation. People assume certain things based on what they see or maybe hear about.
That was definitely feedback we received. We need to celebrate where we're doing good things. There's lots of pockets where we could, communicate how we're progressing and also where we're trying to improve as well. So
it's all about balance, right? I don't want to over-rotate on technology, right? There's a lot of great things happening that are not technology related, but the fact is we do have a lot of technology. We invest a lot in technology in the district. And to some degree, we should be telling people, hey, this is what we're spending money on. This is how we're growing in this area.
And that's exactly the purpose of those little updates, if you will. So, thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. So with all that, we did already have the motion and second. Are we ready to approve the technology plan? All in favor? 7-0. Thanks, Tom. So that's it for all the action items. It's time for board comments. I would simply add, right, as Brett already pointed out earlier, it is homecoming week. Very exciting. My kids are loving the Spirit Days going on and participating in that every day. And they have loved how it has evolved the Friday night activity. And I know most of us, if not all of us, are going to be there. And hope there will be a lot more. I'm pretty sure there will. Who's in charge of the weather this year? Dom still is. Yeah. Okay. Let's see how well he does.
I think it cleared up. I think it did.
Very good. Any other comments?
Yeah. Just a note about Kevin and I attend Information Exchange, Judy too, but most recently they talked about ACT, which is a conglomerate of the Monroe County School Districts, and Victor has joined us as well. So they're just asking that every component district, of which we are one, continue to send their good news forward through the ACT. They haven't heard much from Fairport in the last year or so. So really looking for more news from us to share. It was interesting, and Kevin, chime in whenever you want here. They pointed out to us that their connection with the business community has improved, and Kate and Cass were along with us too, so again, if you want to add anything, and pointed out that business is interested because the schools as a conglomerate, which this group is almost the largest employer in the county. So they are interested in listening to what's going on, and we need to feed them that. So.
We've had conversations, Jen Merkel and myself, about how we can take these updates that we're doing, these storylines that we're giving, and just feed them right over to ACT. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, in addition to that, they mentioned that the educational system here in Monroe County is a great asset and as an attractive element in bringing businesses and individuals, families to the area. So, all we can do to support them, hopefully, and they'll support us.
Glad you brought it up. I remember I went to the ACT page just a couple of weeks ago, and they had like 147 pages of news, and Fairport had one right of those of all the good news. Like, okay, yeah, this is where we can do better, because I'm sure we have much more exciting than just one event per year. So yeah, if we can get in the habit of sharing that. We have a lot to be proud of. Other comments?
Sure, if you don't mind, I'd like to just share a couple of things as I'm not necessarily the board representative to the BOCES board, but I am the Fairport representative to the BOCES board. And a couple of people have been asking me how it's going. So I want to tell you the connections between BOCES and the board as I see them. Last week I fell asleep reading the McCarthy Tire contract that we approved today, because it comes through the cooperative piece of BOCES, where they take all the different contracts and put them together. And I never knew there were that many tires, that you could have a vote, and it was like every single kind of tire was listed and what the cost is per tire, and it was, I learned that there are many different kinds of tires, but this is the kind of thing that you see that BOCES does that saves us money. And that's just one of the things that I spotted there. The other thing that I want to talk a minute about is the, again, back and forth between BOCES and Fairport. So last week I learned that BOCES had a surplus or had some reserves, and they're not allowed to have reserves, so they had to give them back to the component districts. And in the treasurer's report this month, I read that we got money from BOCES. And, normally we don't. We also got back, now that was for this year, we also got back from last year money from the state. So the last piece of the money from 2017 has arrived, am I correct, this year? That one, the big state aid that comes a year later.
Always our aid pieces that come in the fall and even sometimes into September,
okay.
so, as well as BOCES aid.
BOCES
So,
aid, yep.
the cash from prior year still comes.
And the other thing that I was interested in is we have talked so much in Fairport, and we think that they were very unusual to be talking about PBIS, about mental health issues. And they presented to us about their program is called Traumatic. Last year they had something called Traumatic Informed Schools, and now it's becoming Traumatic Responsive Schools, because they see so many of their students with ACEs. And I said, and I didn't ask a question because they expect me to ask all the questions because I'm the new person. And someone said, "How come you didn't ask about ACEs?" I said, "Because I'm on the chemical prevention prevention program, and I know adverse childhood experiences." Well, nobody else knew. I won. That the difference is, as we were talking about it and took a little more in depth from is that they also use the youth at risk surveys to do these things. We had talked in CPAC about a child that has 2 or sometimes 3 adverse childhood experiences. It's someone we really want to monitor. Their numbers start at 4 and 5. Because most children, and the exception, of course, is the Creekside School, which is where the children are disabled pretty much from birth and never really get into our schools. They automatically get those extra support services. But kids that have reasons to come and may not be successful in our schools, that's an adverse childhood experience from the get-go. And now they are able to find some successes. So that was very, very interesting to hear. We have a problem. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's just sort of interesting. And then, as I have told some of you, I really am enjoying the program that they use called Board Docs on making paperwork go away and having it all a totally paperless board meeting. So it's kind of an interesting, I'll tell you some more about it. Anytime you want to ask, I'll tell you what I've learned today from these conversations. But it's interesting to see the cooperative piece of it, which I think most of us are not quite as knowledgeable about. What are the issues, things that they do for us. So that's my report.
Ariel just smiled a little bit when you mentioned board docs.
Yeah, we should hear more about that.
For those who don't know, we did have a conversation on board docs at our last workshop. So
does make me wonder where we stand on the decision.
We have been talking for a while about wanting to go paperless. It's always a challenge.
That's a good question, right? We had a couple of action items from that discussion, so anxious to hear about that as well. So that was good.
Right.
Did I miss that?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. Can I ask any more?
We got those answers overall, right? So it's
I guess I was checked out. But
life is busy.
you might want to bring me up to speed.
Nothing else? Then we will be going into executive session. There are 3 different topics. We will not be making any decisions afterwards, so there's no voting. We will just come out of executive session and adjourn. But, right, of the 3 different topics, for those who have the agenda, I won't go through all of them, but there will be an adjustment to the Phase 3 litigation review. We will also be inviting Chris Fisher to be part of that executive session, who's here. So with that, I need a motion to enter into executive session. We've got everybody voting. So who first? Kevin first, Joyce second. All in favor? 7-0.
And there is a future meeting tomorrow for audit and finance, isn't there?
Yes, tomorrow morning.
This is not till October, but there is one tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning,
See,
yep.
Matt, we were nice to you. We let you go early.
Yep.